this city safe, and we thank you for keeping us safe for all these times. These things we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, please call the roll.
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Mr. Grimes?
Here.
Mr. Pruitt? Here. Ms. Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Okay, you should have received copies of the April 25th council meeting minutes. Any corrections or changes?
I make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Jones will not be here tonight. If he is, he'll be a little bit late. And Miss Isby could barely speak when she called, so she will not be attending tonight. Okay, before we move further, I want to touch on something really quick. As you all know, we got a lot of rain in Conway here the weekend for Toadsuck Days, and I praise the police department, the fire department, and sanitation department, and physical plant, and everybody that got out and worked that night. But there's one group that I missed, and realistically, they get missed a lot, and they are one of the most important groups that we have working in this city. And they did an outstanding job. They were dealing with police and fire and streets all night, and then they were putting up with the mayor, calling them every 5 minutes, asking, what about this, what about this, what about this? So if you would, indulge me for just a minute. Katie Arterberry, come on up, ladies. Laurie Gist, and I'm sorry, but Miss Gist is now Miss Pinnell, is that correct? All right, congratulations. And Miss Brandy Bell. These ladies are the dispatchers that were on duty during the storm.
Cool.
They handled a multitude of calls, and they were all given very good write-ups by their supervisor. And ladies, I apologize for not mentioning you in the paper, but I want you to know that you did an outstanding job, and we really, really appreciate it. And we couldn't do it without you. We absolutely could not do it without you. You know, these folks here, they go from telling someone how to do CPR on a loved one to having to answer a complaint about why someone's trash didn't get picked up. And it's constant, and it's constant. And so I really applaud you for the job you do. Thank you. Okay, first up on the, get this over here, I got it. First up on the agenda tonight, we have two ordinances from Conway Corporation and a resolution to set a public hearing on in our Economic Development Committee section to discuss rate changes for electric and water services. Tonight, we're going to do the first reading only on the two ordinances, and then we'll set a public hearing for the next council meeting, which will be May 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Richie, who would like to speak to this? Mr. Carroll. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll be very brief because we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk in a good bit of detail about what we have before you. But I think what we need tonight is just a reading of the ordinance and then the setting of resolution to set the public hearing for May 23rd. And that's, I guess, what we're asking you guys to do.
Okay. All right, this is a first reading only at this meeting. An ordinance establishing rates to be charged for services of the electric system and for other purposes, and an ordinance amending ordinance 01646 by establishing water rates for residential customers who have a separate water meter for private fire protection, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. Council, we have a resolution setting a public meeting for May 23rd, 2017 at 6:30 p.m.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to set a public hearing to discuss water rates for Conway Corporation, water and electric rates for Conway Corporation. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All right, this will be Resolution R-1719. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0, Mayor.
6-0. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Next up, we have a report of our standing committee, starting with community development. Mr. Hawkins.
Did we put an ordinance number on the other ones? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, we don't do that until
we pass it, yes, sir.
until you pass it.
Yes,
Okay, just wanted to make sure. First item on this agenda, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution setting a public hearing to discuss closing of a portion of the 20-foot utility easement on Lot 5 of the McCracken subdivision, and this is Resolution R-1719. 20, I'm sorry.
I make a motion for adoption, or setting the public hearing, I'm sorry.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to set the public hearing. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution setting a public hearing to discuss the renaming of a portion of Highway 25, and this will be Resolution R-1721.
Let me interject real quickly.
Yes, sir.
The map incorrectly listed a portion of Highway 25 near Friendship Road that will be decommissioned. The only renaming we're doing is going to be from Highway 25, from Old Marlton Highway to the intersection with Friendship.
Okay.
So that'll be the section that's renamed, and we'll give you guys an update between now and the next council meeting.
Are we gonna have time to do both this public hearing and the wastewater, or the water rates public hearing on the same day? Aren't those set for the same day?
They are the same day. We can back them, we can put the, we can scoot the renaming of the highway back.
Well, we might have to go till 7:45 that night.
Oh, no.
I'd say let's just get them done and
But
get
it's-
them
it's-
together.
Is it the committee meeting, or is it during the council meeting?
During the
Then the
council.
During
meeting.
the council meeting, yes. Okay.
I make a motion to,
An hour for some reason.
Well,
Okay.
and if I could say, the water, excuse me,
it's the second meeting for them.
the water rates are actually going to go down for those customers, so I don't know that there'll be much discussion about that.
Okay.
Yeah, but, yeah, so that should be very, very short.
I make a motion, we set this public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set a public hearing for May 23rd, 6:30 PM. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
R-1721. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to purchase right-of-way from Arvest Bank for the College and Salem Roundabout project for the Street and Engineering Department, and City of Conway has agreed to a selling price of $59,400 with Arvest Bank for the parcel of land needed for that particular roundabout, and they are out there doing some stuff as we speak.
Mr. Hawkins, the city attorney informed me we need to pull this one tonight on request of Mr. Vinson.
Okay?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second to table this.
And basically, that has to do with the sign. We're getting some more information on what it's going to take to redo their sign.
Arvest.
sign.
Yeah, to relocate it is kind of was the original plan. But I think Mr. Patrick pointed out that it's a non-conforming sign. And so it would require to be
Wow.
A new
brought
sign.
into conformity. And so we're getting some numbers on that so we can
Does
get that done.
Well, since we're doing it though, Brian, does it require that we make it conform? If you would.
The sign ordinance, basically, if y'all remember with the Prince Street improvements that were done, prior to that time, if a street road project, I'm sorry, I'm retentive, I've got to fix this. Okay, that's better. Prior to the Prince Street, if you did a road improvement, a sign came down, they could put it back up again. It was decided by the council before the Prince Street improvements were done that we wanted to see the road basically improve aesthetically and probably safety-wise to not have so many pole signs through the area. So anyway, with Prince Street, prior to that happening, the sign ordinance was changed so that any street improvement requires any signs that are going to come down as part of the street project for the city to purchase them, and then they can go back up again as, with fair price for that sign, and then they'll have to come back with a conforming monument sign or whatever meets our regulation.
And Arvest is aware of this.
I have not communicated with them. Finley's.
In my brief conversation with Finley, he basically said Arvest has been pretty good partners with the city on this whole thing, and they're just.
We have talked to a couple of sign companies, and so I think the word's getting back to them, because, they've communicated through some sign companies to us. I'm assuming they're getting the word, but I haven't spoken directly with them, but I'm sure Finley's been talking with them.
This does seem like it's kind of at a late hour to be doing this, since we're already busting things up over there.
Yeah, I'm guessing the Finley maybe wasn't aware of the change in the ordinance. Ronnie was really involved, a whole lot in the Prince Street improvements and
Yeah,
that
but I'm
kind of
talking
thing.
about, we hadn't even bought the property from them yet, though.
Right,
That's what I mean.
right. Now, you know,
That's-
it's always the option if the council wants to make a variance to allow it to go back up, but that goes against the
We've
spirit of what
already
was
said, yeah.
approved, but.
And
So-
we've already made other people conform to
Right.
those rules, so.
But now, I think throughout this process, though, we are doing this the right way. We're moving utilities, acquiring right-of-way, and then building. So, I mean, we are doing this in the proper steps. We're not trying to jumble all three together. So that when they start construction, it will be quicker than
Typically, the
past.
moving of the utilities is probably the longest thing
Yeah.
out of the whole project.
Yeah.
So there's still time to work the details out for sure, so.
Very good. So we need to pull this, is that correct? We pull this item from the agenda then. And the next item then on the agenda will be item number 4, and it's an ordinance appropriating funds to cover increased transportation services for fiscal year 2017 for the Street and Engineering Department. And we have an ordinance to read for this. It is ordinance 01747.
47.
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 6-0.
And this is going to the Boys and Girls Club. This is money for transportation for them.
I think that this is just an appropriation, I'm staying for Finley a little bit. I think this is an appropriation as far as taking money from one account where it was given to the Boys and Girls Club for that additional amount, and then putting it back in from another fund.
Okay.
Someone like to make a motion on the ordinance?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? If not, Mr. Garrett, please call the roll.
Okay, 01749. Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Passes 6-0.
Who's number 01749?
Mr. Hawkins.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating funds for the Smith and Spencer Street reconstruction project for the Street and Engineering Department, and we have an ordinance to read for this. It's ordinance 01740.
50?
50.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any further discussion?
Is this an overrun, or is this just,
This was,
Additional
moving-
funds cover
putting on my
work.
Finley hat, he said that this was a project to begin in 2016, but wasn't a budgeted project, and which caused some overages in the street and paving reconstruction account. And so he had to use some of the 2017 budget to cover the cost, which was roughly about half. So what this would do, this appropriation would put the $139,000 to cover the rest of the construction cost.
Street looks really nice.
It does.
They look
it does
great.
look nice.
Man.
It does, looks
It
real
does.
nice, yeah.
And they got it before Toad Suck Days.
They did, they did. And I didn't know that they were gonna put the brick in the pavement, and that really looks nice off.
Well, they still got a couple intersections they need to finish, but they
Yeah.
did one, yeah.
Yeah.
But
It looks nice. And Finley, he's in a class tonight, out of state.
Okay.
Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance 01750. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Passes 6-0. And Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating funds from JSI Recycling to the Street and Engineering Department, and this appears to be bookkeeping to me, and we have an ordinance for this
Are you
item.
kidding?
It's ordinance 01751.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
4.
6-0. Take a motion for the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
Right here. This one.
Mr. Garrett.
01751. Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Passes 6-0. And Mr. Hawkins.
Final item here, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance authorizing a reclassification of positions within the Street and Engineering Department. Looks like concrete construction specialist and a maintenance salary 2 position. And this says that there are no additional salary funds required. So this is ordinance 01752.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Be ordinance 01752. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Next up on the agenda is our public service portion, and we have Chief Spradlin, who wants to talk about asset forfeiture funds.
Good evening. We're asking to spend $9,360 out of the asset forfeiture fund to buy additional training ammunition. The state minimum for us to qualify is once a year. We have traditionally done that twice a year. That's just kind of been a longstanding thing that we've done with the police department. Reasons beyond our control in the last few years, we've had to reduce that to once a year. The biggest being that the demand for ammunition is greater than the supply. The public basically just bought it up quicker than they could make it. And while they gave police departments first dibs, we were fighting amongst each other to get this ammunition. So we've kind of suffered over the years in our firearms training. So what we're asking is that we be provided this money so we can make our officers more tactically proficient and implement this firearms training program for them.
I make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
Is this, if it's not double secret information, how many rounds will $9,350 buy?
That will be that will be 40,000 rounds, about 300 per officer.
And if you train twice a year, is that enough to use?
This
for
is
that?
beyond our normal qualifications.
Okay.
This is going to be tactical training, firearms training. So we plan on implementing this quarterly to where we take a group of officers out and we put them through a separate training program other than just shooting at a paper target. This is not going to be just, shot up in, 1 month or anything like that, but should get us, easily through the year, probably the fiscal year.
Cool.
So,
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Be ordinance 01753. Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Next, Chief Spradlin is going to talk to us about appropriating reimbursement funds from various entities for the Conway Police Department.
yeah, this is a general accounting ordinance that you've seen many times. The only thing I would note on here is the donations. That $3,200 for donations is for our annual Child Safety Fair. We have that June, I believe it's June 17th this year on Saturday at the Expo Center. So that's what the donation funds are for.
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
01754. Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
That passes 6-0. And finally, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for the replacement of the roof at City Hall. Jamie is here to speak on it. She's our new procurement officer, and I can also speak to this if you have any questions. But she's been working hard on this, and Jamie, the floor is yours.
Good evening. We have an ordinance requesting funds to redo the roof at City Hall. We went through a TIPS purchasing co-op that's used by the state, counties, schools, a lot of government entities. And we're asking to approve Reynolds Construction Company and also appropriate the funds of $125,000 to cover the roof. And it's going to take an additional cost for some electrical work and other projects like that, just little City Hall projects.
What it is the roof has been leaking for a number of years, and the insulation in the roof is acting like a sponge, and it's collected the rain. And even in August, when it's dry, it's still we still have water in the insulation, and it continues to leak, and it's an ongoing problem. And during the last rain, it took the ceilings down in Mr. Garrett's room, got on the computer, and I think I walked around and counted them, the leaks. We had 12 up until the last rain, and we have 15 now. So I've had several people ask me if we thought this was a good expenditure of the money because of the building and its age. And I'll just answer it like we do down here in the South. Well, it is. It's putting lipstick on a pig, but unfortunately, it's the only pig we have. So it's where people do business, and so we're going to have to see if we can't fix it up.
Was this negotiated price, Jamie?
We
How
did.
arrive?
We had several vendors that visited City Hall. We've obtained quotes from them. They gave us good estimates. Reynolds appeared to be the most experienced. They do a lot of schools, hospitals, bank buildings, office buildings, with the, is it?
I did the Faulkner County Library, I think.
Yes, the Duraflex, it's like a thick plastic metal roof, or a rubber roof, sorry.
It's hard to say. Wubble roof.
I'll get better.
And they're from where? I'm sorry.
They're from Whitehall. And we did talk to other vendors, and we've used them for other projects throughout the city. These appeared they were gonna do more tapering on top of the City Hall, which we thought was important. They gave us a really complete estimate. A lot of the other vendors did not include everything that we thought should be included. Electrical work, there's gonna be an air unit that needs to be moved.
The awning.
The awning,
on the
yes,
west side.
one of the best ones that we wanted, couldn't do the awning, so.
Then this says up to 125,000. I mean, can you give us an idea of what their estimate was?
103,
103?
yes, sir.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion to waive the 3 readings and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for adoption and the emergency clause as well.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause. Any further discussion?
It is an emergency.
It is.
Can they start?
When's the next rain? Is this weekend?
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
They need dry weather, but as soon as possible.
And we're gonna put some pretty rigid rules in place about folks getting on the roof in the future. You know, we got it fixed back in the 90s, and I think Mayor Kinley at the time wouldn't allow folks to get up on the roof, and it extended the life. And then gradually, when people would go up there and work, then during Tozic days, people would go up, then I think we probably created some of our own problems. So hopefully, we will keep people off the roof this next time unless they have to be up there. Mr. Garrett.
I mean, ordinance 1755, Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. Grimes.
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Mel.
Aye.
And the emergency clause, Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. Grimes.
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Mel.
Aye.
That passes 6-0. I just want to give y'all a FYI. Ms. Mabry Williams, we met with our department heads this morning, and we discussed insurance then. We have an insurance committee in the city now that's working on our insurance package for this next year. Lisa gave out some information about, I think we're paying out at 142% of our premiums. And there is a possibility that we will have an increase in insurance. And since the department heads knew that, and everyone, all of our employees, I want y'all to know as well. So if you get any calls. Any further business?
One other item.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, on Thursday night, I just happened to be reading email, and Thursday night, we're meeting with the school board
Correct.
at 5:30, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that.
Thank you.
At the school.
Reminder.
At the school. Yeah,
The,
at the
administration
administration
building?
building.
Yeah.
At the administration building at 5:30.
And I can trump that. Tomorrow is Bike to School Day, so just want to make sure everybody was aware that there'll be a lot more children out there riding their bikes to school, so.
Well, Andy, I'm going to do the bike to work day. Would you like to join us that day?
I might do that. I might do that.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Chuck, I like that.
Okay, let's see. How many did you keep? 2? That's perfect. You know what you're
Back
doing.
to work. You going back to
Not your
when
first
the
rodeo.
workday comes. It's looking good. How much longer is it? I mean, it's pretty wild, isn't it? Oh, they say it's not. I don't care who I am. How are you, Bart? Oh, not much. So is that steak? Oh, okay.
Hey, tell Brian I said happy birthday. Tell him I was coming from an older man.